but we all have our little ways. Pooh nodded solemnly and called to Tigger. Come along, and we'll go and see Kanga. She's sure to have lots of breakfast for you. Tigger finished his last circle and came up to Pooh and Piglet. Hot, he explained with a large friendly smile. Come on! And he rushed off. Pooh and Piglet walked slowly after him. And as they walked, Piglet said nothing because he couldn't think of anything. And Pooh said nothing because he was thinking of a poem. And when he thought of it, he began. What shall we do about poor little Tigger? If he never eats anything, he'll never get bigger. If he doesn't like honey and acorns and thistles because of the taste and because of the bristles, and all of the good things which an animal likes have the wrong sort of swallow or too many spikes. He's quite big enough anyhow, said Piglet. He isn't really very big. Well, he seems so. Pooh was thoughtful when he heard this, and he murmured to himself, but whatever his weight, in pounds, shillings, and ounces, he always seems bigger because of his bounces. And that's the whole poem, he said. Do you like it, Piglet? All except the shillings, said Piglet. I don't think they ought to be there. They wanted to come in after the pounds, explained Pooh, so I let them. It's the best way to write poetry, letting things come. Oh, I didn't know, said Piglet. Tigger had been bouncing in front of them all this time, turning round every now and then to ask, is this the way? And now at last they came in sight of Kanga's house, and there was Christopher Robin. Tigger rushed up to him. Oh, there you are, Tigger, said Christopher Robin. I knew you'd be somewhere. I've been finding things in the forest, said Tigger importantly. I found a Pooh and a Piglet and an Eeyore, but I can't find any breakfast. Pooh and Piglet came up and hugged Christopher Robin and explained what had been happening. Don't you know what Tigger's like? Asked Pooh. I expect if I thought very hard I should, said Christopher Robin, but I thought Tigger knew. I do, said Tigger. Everything in the world except honey and acorns and what were those hot things called? Thistles. Yes, and those. Oh, well, then Kanga can give you some breakfast. So they went into Kanga's house, and when Roo had said, hello, Pooh, hello, Piglet, and hello, Tigger, twice because he'd never said it before and it sounded funny, they told Kanga what they wanted, and Kanga said very kindly, well, look in my cupboard, Tigger dear, and see what you like. Because she knew at once, however big he seemed to be, he wanted as much kindness as Roo. Shall I look too? Said Pooh, who was feeling a little 11 o'clock-ish. And he found a small tin of condensed milk, and something seemed to tell him the Tiggers didn't like this, so he took it into the corner by himself and went with it to see nobody interrupted it. But the more Tigger put his nose in this and paw in that, the more things he found which Tiggers didn't like. And when he found everything in the cupboard and couldn't eat any of it, he said to Kanga, what happens now? But Kanga and Christopher Robin were all standing round Roo, watching a man have his extract of malt. And Roo was saying, must I? And Kanga was saying, now, Roo dear, you remember what you promised? What is it? Whispered Tigger to Piglet. His strengthening medicine, said Piglet. He hates it. So Tigger came closer, and he leaned over the back of Roo's chair, and suddenly he put out his tongue and took one large gollop. And with a sudden jump of surprise, Kanga said, oh, and clutched the spoon again just as it was disappearing and pulled it safely back out of Tigger's mouth. But the extract of malt had gone. Tigger, dear, said Kanga. He's taken my medicine, he's taken my medicine, he's taken my medicine, sang Roo happily, thinking it was a tremendous joke. Then Tigger looked at the ceiling and closed his eyes, and his tongue went round and round his chops in case he had any left outside. And a peaceful smile came over to his face as he said, so that's what Tigger is like. Which explains why he always lived at Kanga's house afterwards and had extract of malt for breakfast, dinner, and tea. And sometimes when Kanga thought he wanted strengthening, he had a spoonful or two of Roo's breakfast after meals as medicine. But I think, said Piglet to Pooh, he's been strengthened quite enough. End of chapter 2. It's just so precious, these books. There's so many just cute little moments and sweet turns of phrase. You can't help but feel nostalgic, I think, for these. So as I like to show whenever we have illustrations, we do have a few illustrations. Oh, wait, I'm gone. Hang on. Bring me back. There I am. Okay. So here's Pooh finding a stranger rapping at his chamber door or something like that. Looking in the looking glass. Trying some honey. Going for acorns. Eating some thistles. Finding Christopher Robin. Finding the condensed milk. Yum. And finally, eating Prue's medicine. I know. You can really see, where, like, Disney riffed off these designs to get a little look at inspiration for their interpretation of Winnie the Pooh. Deslord, welcome in. How are you doing? I hope you're keeping well. We just finished our first chapter of Winnie the Pooh, the house at Pooh Corner tonight. We do have one more to be reading before we jump on into our slightly meatier read. The Room in the Dragon Volant by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. Sinite, welcome. How are you doing? I hope everybody is keeping well and has been having a good start to their week. Thank you for coming for story time. Yeah, I'm keeping well. This is sort of our last classic lit story time before Christmas. I will be taking next week off because Mama and Papa snooze. We usually have sort of our big celebration Christmas Eve, which is somehow only a week away. How crazy is that? So we're gonna try and get through quite a bit tonight. We just started both of these books last week, so we're just kind of getting into, we had the introduction last time, now we're really getting into the meat of them. Ooh, it's one of my favorite teas, the Santa's Secret. It's like a chocolate mint black tea. Typically only comes out around this time of year. All right, well, why don't we jump on into our next chapter, chapter 3 of The House at Pooh Corner. Street Raiders Battle will probably be coming up kind of near the end of the chapter. I will try to run it as quickly as I'm able. But yeah, just about 6 minutes to go. Feel free to drop down some units if you like. Yeah, it's really comforting, especially this time of year. Do recommend. The brand is David's Tea for the Santa's Secret. Alrighty. Why don't we get cozy in for our next chapter of Winnie the Pooh. Chapter 3, in which a search is organized and Piglet nearly meets a Heffalump again. Pooh was sitting in his house one day, counting his pots of honey, when there came a knock at the door. 14, said Pooh. Come in, 14? Or was it 15? Bother. That's muddled me. Hello, Pooh, said Rabbit. Hello, Rabbit. 14, wasn't it? What was? My pots of honey I was counting. 14, that's right. Are you sure? No, said Rabbit. Does it matter? I just like to know, said Pooh humbly, so as I can say to myself, I've got 14 pots of honey left, or 15, as the case may be. Sort of comforting. Well, let's call it 16, said Rabbit. What I came to say was, have you seen Small anywhere about? I don't think so, said Pooh. And then, after thinking a little more, he said, Who is Small? One of my friends and relations, said Rabbit carelessly. This didn't help Pooh much, because Rabbit had so many friends and relations of such different sorts and sizes that he didn't know whether he ought to be looking for Small at the top of an oak tree or the petal of a buttercup. I haven't seen anybody today, said Pooh. Not as to say, Hello, Small, too. Did you want him for anything? I don't want him, said Rabbit, but it's always useful to know where a friend or relation is, whether you want him or whether you don't. Oh, I see, said Pooh. Is he lost? Well, said Rabbit, nobody's seen him for a long time, so I suppose he is. Anyhow, he went on, more importantly, I promised Christopher Robin I'd organize a search for him, so come on. Pooh said goodbye affectionately to his 14 pots of honey and hoped they were 15, and he and Rabbit went out into the forest. Now, said Rabbit, this is a search and I've organized it. Done what to it? Organized it, which means, well, it's what you do to a search when you don't all look in the same place at once. So I want you, Pooh, to search by the 6 pine trees first, and then work your way towards Owl's house and look out for me there. Do you see? No, said Pooh. What? Then I'll see you at Owl's house in about an hour's time. Is Piglet organized too? We all are, said Rabbit, and off he went. As soon as Rabbit was out of sight, Pooh remembered he'd forgotten to ask who Small was and whether he was the sort of friend or relation who's settled on one's nose, or the sort who got trodden on by mistake. As it was too late now, he thought he'd begin the hunt by beginning to look for Piglet and asking him what they were looking for before he looked for it. And it's no good to looking at the 6 pine trees for Piglet, said Pooh to himself, because he's been organized in a special place of his own. So I shall have to look for the special place first. I wonder where it is. And he wrote down in his head like this: Order of looking for things. Number 1, special place to find a Piglet. Number 2, Piglet to find who Small is. Number 3, Small to find Small. Number 4, Rabbit to tell him I've found Small. Number 5, Small again to tell him I've found Rabbit. Which makes it look like a bothering sort of day, thought Pooh as he stumped along. The next moment, the day became very bothering indeed, because Pooh was so busy not looking where he was going that he stepped on a piece of the forest which had been left out by mistake, and he only just had time to think to himself, I'm flying, what Owl does. I wonder how you stop. When he stopped. Bump. Ow! Squeaked something. That's funny, said Pooh. I've said ow without really owing. Help, said a small, high voice. That's me again, thought Pooh. I've had an accident and fallen down a well, and my voice has gone all squeaky and works before I'm ready for it, because I've done something to myself inside. Bother. Help, help. There you are. I say things when I'm not trying, so it must be a very bad accident. And he thought that perhaps when he did try to say things, he wouldn't be able to. So to make sure, he said loudly, A very bad accident to Pooh Bear. Pooh, squeaked the voice. Piglet, cried Pooh eagerly. Where are you? Underneath, said Piglet in an underneath sort of way. Underneath what? You. squeaked Piglet. Get up! Oh, said Pooh, and scrambled up as quickly as he could. Did I fall on you, Piglet? You fell on me, said Piglet, feeling himself all over. I didn't mean to, said Pooh sorrowfully. I didn't mean to be underneath, said Piglet sadly. But I'm all right now, Pooh, and I am so glad it was you. What's happened? Said Pooh. Where are we? I think we're in a sort of pit. I was walking along looking for somebody, and suddenly I wasn't anymore. And just when I got up to see where I was, something fell on me, and it was you. So it was, said Pooh. Yes, said Piglet. Pooh, he went on nervously, and came a little closer. Do you think we're in a trap? Pooh hadn't thought about it at all, and now he nodded. For suddenly he remembered how he and Piglet had once made a Pooh trap for heffalumps, and he guessed what had happened. He and Piglet had fallen into a heffalump trap for Poohs. That's what it was. What happens when the heffalump comes? Asked Piglet tremblingly when he heard this news. Perhaps he won't notice you, Piglet, said Pooh encouragingly, because you're a very small animal. But he'll notice you, Pooh. He'll notice me, and I shall notice him. Pooh was thinking it out. We'll notice each other for a long time, and then he'll say, ho ho. Piglet shivered a little at the thought of that, ho ho, and his ears began to twitch. What will you say? He asked. Pooh tried to think of something he would say, but the more he thought, the more he felt that there is no real answer to ho ho, except by a heffalump in the sort of voice this heffalump was going to say it in. I shan't say anything, said Pooh at last. I shall just hum it to myself as if I were waiting for something. Then perhaps he'll say ho ho again, suggested Piglet anxiously. He will, said Pooh. Piglet's ears twitched so quickly he had to lean them against the side of the trap to keep them quiet. He will say it again, said Pooh, and I shall go on humming, and that will upset him. Because when you say ho ho twice in a gloating sort of way, and the other person only hums, you suddenly find, just as you begin to say the third time, that, well, you find... What? That it isn't, said Pooh. Isn't what? Pooh knew what he meant, but being a bear of very little brain, couldn't think of the words. Well, it just isn't, he said again. You mean it isn't ho-ho-ish anymore? Said Piglet hopefully. Pooh looked at him admiringly and said that was what he meant, if you went on humming all the time because you couldn't go on saying ho-ho forever. But he'll say something else, said Piglet. That's just it. He'll say, what's all this? And I shall say, and this is a very good idea, Piglet, which I've just thought of. I shall say, it's a trap for a heffalump which I've made, and I'm waiting for a heffalump to fall in. And I shall go on humming. That will unsettle him. Pooh! Cried Piglet, and now it was his turn to be the admiring one. You've saved us. Have I? Said Pooh, not feeling quite sure. But Piglet was quite sure, and his mind ran on, and he saw Pooh and Heffalump talking to each other, and he thought suddenly, and a little sadly, that it would have been rather nice if it had been Piglet and the Heffalump talking so grandly to each other, and not Pooh, as much as he loved Pooh, because he really had more brain than Pooh, and the conversation would go better if he and not Pooh were doing one side of it, and it would be comforting afterwards in the evenings to look back on the day when he answered a Heffalump as bravely as the Heffalump wasn't there. It seemed so easy now. He knew just what he would say. Heffalump, gloatingly. Ho-ho! Piglet, carelessly. Tra-la-la, tra-la-la. Heffalump, surprised and not quite so sure of himself. Ho-ho? Piglet, more carelessly still. Tiddly-um-tum, tiddly-um-tum. Heffalump, beginning to say ho-ho and turning it awkwardly into a cough. What's all this? Piglet, surprised. Hello, this is a trap I've made and I'm waiting for a Heffalump to fall in it. Heffalump, greatly disappointed. Oh. After a long silence, are you sure? Piglet, yes. Heffalump, oh. Nervously, I thought it was a trap I'd made to catch piglets. Piglet, surprised, oh no. Heffalump, oh. Apologetically, I must have got it wrong then. I'm afraid so. Politely, I'm sorry. He goes on humming. Heffalump, well, I suppose I better be getting back. Piglet, looking up carelessly. Must you? Well, if you see Christopher Robin anywhere, you might tell him I want him. Heffalump, eager to please. Certainly. He hurries off. Pooh, who wasn't going to be there, but we find we can't do without him. Oh, Piglet, how brave and clever you are. Piglet, modestly. Not at all, Pooh. And then when Christopher Robin comes, Pooh can tell him all about it. While Piglet was dreaming this happy dream, and Pooh was wondering again whether it was 14 or 15, the search for Small was still going on all over the forest. Small's real name was Very Small Beetle, and he was called Small for short, when he was spoken to at all, which hardly ever happened except when somebody said, really small. He'd been staying with Christopher Robin for a few seconds, and he started round a gorse bush for exercise, but instead of coming back the other way, as expected, he hadn't, so nobody knew where he was. I expect he's just gone home, said Christopher Robin to Rabbit. Did he say goodbye and thank you for a nice time? Asked Rabbit. He'd only said just how do you do, said Christopher Robin. Ha, said Rabbit. After thinking a little, he went on. Has he written a letter saying how much he enjoyed himself and how sorry he was he had to go suddenly? Christopher Robin didn't think he had. Ha, said Rabbit again and looked very important. This is serious. He is lost. We must begin the search at once. Christopher Robin, who was thinking of something else, said, Where's Pooh? But Rabbit had gone. So he went into his house and drew a picture of Pooh going on a long walk about 7 o'clock in the morning, and then he climbed on the top of his tree and climbed down again, and he wondered what Pooh was doing and went across the forest to see. It was not long before he came to the gravel pit, and he looked down, and there were Pooh and Piglet with their backs to him, dreaming happily. Ho-ho! Said Christopher Robin loudly and suddenly. Piglet jumped 6 inches in the air with surprise and anxiety, but Pooh went on dreaming. It's the Heffalump, thought Piglet nervously. Now then. He hummed in his throat a little so that none of the words should stick, and then in the most delightfully easy way he said, Tra-la-la, tra-la-la, as if he'd just thought of it. But he didn't look round, because if you look round and see a very fierce Heffalump looking down at you, sometimes you forget what you were going to say. Rum-tum-tiddle-tum, said Christopher Robin in a voice similar to Pooh's, because Pooh had once invented a song which went, Tra-la-la, 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 rum-tum-tum-tiddly-um. So whenever Christopher Robin sings it, he always sings it in a Pooh voice, which seems to suit it better. He said the wrong thing, thought Piglet anxiously. He ought to have said ho-ho again. Perhaps I'd better say it for him. And as fiercely as he could, Piglet said, Ho-ho! How did you get there, Piglet? Asked Christopher Robin in his ordinary voice. This is terrible, thought Piglet. First he talks in Pooh's voice, and then he talks in Christopher Robin's voice, and he's doing it so as to unsettle me. And now being completely unsettled, he said very quickly and squiggly, This is a trap for Pooh's, and I'm waiting to fall in it. Ho-ho, what's all this? And then I say ho-ho again. What? Said Christopher Robin. A trap for ho-hos, said Piglet. I've just made it, and I'm waiting for the ho-ho to come. How long Piglet would have gone on like this, I don't know, but at that moment, Pooh woke up suddenly and decided it was 16. So he got up And as he turned his head so as to soothe himself in that awkward place in the middle of the back where something was tickling him, he saw Christopher Robin. "Hello!" he shouted joyfully. "Hello, Pooh." Pooh looked up and looked away again, and he felt so foolish and uncomfortable that he had almost decided to run away to sea and be a sailor, when suddenly he saw something. "Pooh," he cried, "there's something climbing up your back." "I thought there was," said Pooh. "It's small," cried Piglet. "Oh, that's who it is, then," said Pooh. "Christopher Robin, I found Small," cried Piglet. "Well done, Piglet," said Christopher Robin. And at these encouraging words, Piglet felt quite happy again and decided not to be a sailor after all. So when Christopher Robin helped them out of the gravel pit, they went off together hand in hand. And 2 days later, Rabbit happened to meet Eeyore in the forest. "Hello, Eeyore," he said. "What are you looking for?" "Small, of course," said Eeyore. "Haven't you any brain?" "Oh, but didn't I tell you?" said Rabbit. "Small was found 2 days ago." There was a moment's silence. "Ha, ha," said Eeyore bitterly. "Merriment and whatnot. Don't apologize. It's just what would happen." End of chapter 3. Howdy doody, Fatangle. I see you in there. Cheers. Thank you for that hydrate. Ho ho. Good to see you, Light Source. I hope you're doing well. So, as I like to show the illustrations for the Winnie the Pooh, for the chapter that we just read, here is Pooh counting his pots, trying to decide if it's 14 or 15. Here is everyone having a search for Small. There's Pooh falling down. Pooh falling on top of Piglet. Piglet's ears twitching in fear. This is Small the beetle, who crawled around the bush and didn't come back again. Christopher Robin climbing a tree, wondering what Pooh could be up to. Christopher Robin finding Pooh and Piglet down the gravel pit. And then Piglet finding Small on Pooh's back. It's very cute. 17? I actually didn't count. You're doing some painting, Light Source? Busy bee with all your crafts right now. You guys, there's a Pidgeotto. On the original 150. Feel free to pokey catch if you like. Christmas is all but buttoned up. Nice. Congratulations. So that's where we're going to leave the 100-acre wood for now. And we're going to be switching gears to The Room in the Dragon Volant by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. Sounds good, Light Source. You know, we gotta keep the secrets for just another week or so. So I'll keep reminding a few times throughout the night that I won't be having story time next week. It is Christmas Eve, and I will be visiting Mama and Papa Snooze because Christmas Eve is sort of our big holiday day. So this is our last story time before Christmas. Focus, Mr. Camera. There we go. But it won't be my last reading stream before Christmas. We're gonna have a little bonus reading sesh on Saturday evening. Can you guys guess what we're going to be reading on Saturday evening? The correct answer is, so in the summer, oh, that's a good guess. 2 good guesses. But in the summer, I was working on a project. There was a contest through Kobo, which is Canada's version of Kindle. And they had a writing contest for a holiday-themed rom-com. Think like a Hallmark movie. And I worked through the summer, throughout the June and July-ish, and wrote one to submit. I didn't win or make the short list or anything like that.